The purpose of this video is to explain what a join is, why you would use one, and how you might apply that to your database. Okay, so to do that, I want to start out with a query that I created in my mouse harvest database here, in which we have the ability to go around and to check mouse traps. And so we're calling that the harvest or the inspection time. We go around and check mouse traps and then record all that data about what the date was, the time, whether or not a mouse was caught, the trap location, what kind of bait was used, and that kind of thing. All right, so in this query that I've created, bring this into the screen here, you can see that it returned all of the inspections that I did utilizing the form that I've created to do that. All this information is in my query, except I noticed that there are at least a couple of inspections that are missing here, and I know why. One of the things that I did not, when I set up the tables for my database, I did not make it required to enter the bait description. All right, so because some of the records in my database did not have a bait description in them, the query didn't pull them up. Okay. In this case, it's not desirable. So we're going to change that. Now, in order to understand what we need to do here, first of all, I want to go to my tables and notice in my database I only have two. I have the inspection table, which I'll actually go to the edit mode here so we can see what's actually in the inspection table. The date, time, trap location, harvest, note, bait, and mouse size. All right, well, I made the inspection date required by the user. So I said yes to entry required. I did the same thing with time, trap location, and then in harvest, that's just a yes or no. Mouse was either harvested or wouldn't. But notice that in the note field, I did not make that a requirement that whoever is using the data entry form enter a particular note about the mouse, whether it was hairy, how big, whether or not its tail was caught, and so forth. I also didn't make it required to enter the bait. And herein lies the problem when we actually generated our query. And then also I have mouse size, and I didn't think that that was required either. Okay, so that's how it was originally set up. All right, well, we'll look at one more thing before we actually get to the join. Originally, when I went to Tools and then Relationships and set up the relationships for my database, move this into your screen here so you can see this. Here are the relationships. I wanted to be able to pick the bait description from a drop-down menu. And so I created a separate bait table that has nothing in it but bait ID and a description that goes with each one of the bait IDs. All right, so when I use my form, and I want to choose my bait description from the bait table, I simply connected or related the two tables with a one-to-many relationship, which is what one to n shows here. There's only one bait ID that identifies one description associated with each ID, but but that particular bait description can show up many times in my inspection table, of course. That's the one-to-many relationship. All right, now this relationship is different from a join. We don't have to change that relationship that I just showed in order to build a query. So let's go back to the query, and I'm going to run this query again, and notice that I'm just going to bring this back into the screen one more time. There's nothing, I'm missing some records here somewhere around February between these dates right here that I know there were traps that were checked and the bait description was not given. They're not showing up here. Now here's the reason. We're going to go to the edit mode in the query here and look at how the query was set up. Bring it into the screen here. Now I'm going to open this up too so you can actually see the tables here. Notice how similar this looks to the relationships that we drew in just a moment ago. However, this is not that screen. This one relates to only this query. And notice that it doesn't show the one-to-many relationship here. This is not called, we don't call this a relationship, we actually call it a join. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to right-click on it and go to Edit, and it shows me how these tables are related as far as this query goes. All right. So notice that there are different uh, query types. There are at least four in OpenOffice database. We have an inner join, a left join, a right join, and a cross join. By default, the product uh, keeps this as an inner join. In other words, it includes only records for which the contents of the related fields of both tables are identical. All right. Well, I may have had many records in the inspection table, a couple of them which didn't include the bait, but since there was no match in those to a bait and a date table, it didn't give me those records. All right. So I want to show all of my records in the inspection table. So so it's really a right join because it's the table on the right. Notice that it says contains all records from the table inspection, but only records from table bait where the values and related fields are matching. So what that means is that I am by setting up a right join instead of an inner join, I am going to return every record in the inspection table, even if it doesn't have a match to uh, a bait. All right, so I'm going to say OK to that. And now I have actually changed the design of my query. Now I don't have to worry about the original relationship that I set up for my database. I haven't changed that. All I've really changed is the join in this particular query. And I can change it again someday if I want to. All right, so I'm going to save this and close it. And now I'm going to run my query again. Bring this into the screen. Well, let's take a look at the query now. Oh, hey, we've got on February 22nd, we've got a couple extra entries here where the bait description wasn't entered. Now I truly have all of the records returned in my query where all traps were checked. Okay, so hopefully this information was helpful to you as you discover whether or not you need an inner join, a left join, a right join, or a full join. Thanks for watching.